Welcome back. I am your host, Cleta Soulchild. Welcome to the Cleta Soulchild podcast, Making It Millennial. Welcome to our Millennials and Politics series. And I have the pleasure of having the third episode of Millennials and Politics. Today with me, I have a return guest, Honorable Maxovonno Thomas, and a new guest, Robert Bean Jr. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me and accepting my request to come on the show.
Thank you so much, Cleta.
Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
So awesome. So I want to dive right in. I know everyone sees me in my referee attire. I just want to make abundantly clear, I'm a big fan of Super Bowl and football, so I just wanted to dress the part, make it look fun. There's no debate here, just clean, fun politics, and these gentlemen will represent their party. And I just want to start off with my new guest, Robert Bean Jr. Please just briefly tell me, let us know who is Robert Bean Jr.
Good afternoon, Turks and Caicos. Many of you would know me. Like she said, my name is Robert Bean Jr. I'm from Provo. I am a businessman here in Turks and Caicos. Have been involved with a number of community activities. I have a background in law, a bachelor's degree in law. I'm a family man. with 3 kids, and that large candidate, as I think Cleta would have mentioned, in this upcoming election on the PDM ticket.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for sharing. And yes, you're beautiful girls. Like, I'm sure they're grown now since the last time I've seen them. And Mr. Honorable Maxovonno Thomas, if you haven't had the pleasure of seeing the past episodes from season 1, he did join me on Does Voting Make a Difference with the Honorable Akierra Missick. So Max, you're no stranger to the show.
No.
Let the audience know who you are
No
and what you're
stranger.
representing.
No stranger to the show. I am Maxovonno Thomas. I was born and raised in the island of South Caicos. I've been a banker for the last 9 years. I also serve as the appointed member in the House of Assembly. I can tell you one thing, part of my platform, which you will hear a lot about tonight, I was always about youth empowerment and empowering of our people. So I think if you haven't had a formal introduction to me before, you will have a formal introduction about the things that I represent and what I plan to represent going forward inside this country.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
thank you.
You're welcome, and I can't wait for us to dive in, but I want to start off with Robert being here. So, Mr. Robert, I did some research on you, and I noticed that a big part of your campaign is anti-crime.
Yes.
What are your plans for curbing crime within the TCI community?
Crime has always been on my agenda since the last election, coming out speaking out loud. As everyone would know, I have been a victim of gun violence. So from there, I was always passionate about it, to try my best to see how we can deter other families from going through some of the same things that I've went through. So some of my recommendations and suggestions moving forward, because I don't think it's too late to actually reduce crime. I believe crime is going to always be present, but our job as elected officials, representatives, deter the ones committing the crime from doing it. So a few of my proposals, a benevolence program where families affected by gun violence can actually get help from the government, because sometimes you find that it's the breadwinner of the family that has been affected. And also there needs to be more communication. Personally speaking from experience, you have seen what we have seen during investigation. You would always find, communication between police and family. But after about 6-8 months into the matter, where it almost seems as if the crime is not going to be solved, it's a disconnect.
Right.
And I truly believe it's unfair. So as our job, as representatives, as I said, we need to put pressure on the governor, the police department, that there needs to always be communication back and forth between families.
Absolutely.
I do know we have the social welfare department that assists in a lot of social services, but that's still not enough. Nobody planned to lose a loved one, most especially if it's the breadwinner.
course not.
So there must be something in place, because as a government, as much as we can try to deter crime, crime still will exist. So when it do happen, we must be in the position that those families are well taken care of. One of the other things that I did put on there was the mobile police unit. As we know, Blue Hills and Beeland, as well as Q-Town, are known as hot crime spots. And everybody wanted to have the substation. And what I thought about, which was a great recommendation, suggestion, a little bit known to me because I didn't do the background check, that my government had actually already had passed that in the House sometime last year, I think it was.
Right.
Yeah, the
Okay.
mobile police station.
Okay.
So that was something else that, like I said, I wanted to put in there. And with the mobile police unit, what happens is it can, instead of having a substation just in Blue Hills or Wheeling, you have a station that could go from place to place during any time you have a community events.
Okay.
So that's just a few of the things that I decided that I would put forward as a recommendation when we're talking about advocating for crime here in Turks and Caicos. We do know that the police department is actually under the governor. Governor is that controls it.
Yes, I do notice that. And I do want to extend my condolences. I'm sure it's been some time, but
Yes.
nobody gets over death. And that's what people don't understand. Everybody likes to say life goes on, but there's no way to get rid of a death of a family member.
Yeah.
That pain always lingers. People only learn how to live with it.
Yeah.
And we applaud your bravery for stepping up to the plate as well.
Yeah, my tip to everybody is don't wait till it hits your doorstep. You see people and it almost looks as if they're dealing with it, but you have no idea behind closed doors. That's someone that is not here no more. And again, like I said, it's the breadwinner that probably didn't have the chance to finish off what he had planned for his family and his household. Luckily, for my father, he took me in at a young age. When I mean took me in, because I grew up with him, but took me under his wings at a young age and started prepping me for family business at a real young age, I think at 8 or 11 or 12.
Okay.
So I'm grateful for him being that father figure in my life,
And
really displaying that.
So from what I'm hearing, that's the biggest reason that you decided to join politics? Can
No,
you share some of
definitely
your
not.
agenda and what's your plan?
No, that's not the biggest reason. I always had plans to get involved with politics ever since
Yeah.
high school, which is the reason for me actually pursuing a degree in law.
Okay.
Politics is always coming my way, always.
Okay.
And if you were to ask me a question, which I'm probably sure the audience or somebody would ask, I always have this question, why at large? Well, I'm from 5 Keys. Of course, we have that seat already filled. So if I had to go with a constituency, it would have been 5 Keys. And we have a representative there already that's doing a good, tremendous job anyway. So there were open seats for that lodge, so I decided to step up to the plate.
Okay.
And we always said we want to see young people involved with politics. Here to the young people of Turks and Caicos, they gave us a platform on both sides, where you see both sides has actually young, bright faces.
Yes.
So this is our job as young Turks and Caicos Islanders to actually go to the polls on February 19th and support, because it's no use in complaining, saying that we don't have a seat at the front of the table when you have today 4 candidates that's young, under 40, that's here to actually be a voice for you and represent you.
Absolutely.
So it's our job to actually go out and vote.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much. You said a lot, and we appreciate that. So, Honorable Maxovonno,
Yes.
as you mentioned before, my question to you is, do you think your role as an elected member of Parliament is different than being an appointed member, and why?
Certainly. And I can get into a lot of different details in regards to that. But I'll tell you, one, and I can tell you, I'm seeking to be elected this time opposed to being appointed, because you want to seek the mandate from the people. At the end of the day, when the people went to the polls in 2012, they sought a mandate, and they gave a mandate to their government, right? They said to those individuals who put their name on the dotted line, who also promoted the manifestos on both sides. They say, these are the things that we want you to represent, right? That was the mandate that they gave to those elected members, right? I was appointed. At the end of the day, I think if you're seeking to move forward in terms of plans that you would like to achieve for the people, then you need to go back to the people and be elected by the people to be able to lead government business.
Yes.
And anybody who is a reasonable person or believe in a true democracy will see things that way. When bills came to Parliament, my job, and I saw my role, whatever the government proposed for the people and they look to achieve, it was my job to take it and look at it and try to see how I could possibly make it better for the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Can I interject and ask a question?
Yes.
When you being appointed and elected, are there restrictions, or do you have the same benefits
What?
as being as an appointed member and an elected member?
Right? As an appointed member or elected leader, number one, both persons, you have equal vote inside Parliament on any bill or stuff. Now,
Okay.
the parliamentary system, it works this way, right? You have cabinet. Cabinet supports a bill system that comes to Parliament. Once that comes to Parliament, Cabinet is obliged to support the bill, right? That is the wishes of the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands. That is the wishes of the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands, because that is the people that they put in charge, right? And if you believe in a true democracy, what you do is you try to take the wishes of the people and to make it better.
Yes.
Not to try to stop the wishes of the people or people who they put in charge, right? And that's the whole makeup of that. But the other thing I would like to say too is that my role as an appointed member, I can tell you what it afforded me. It gave me a certain level of experience that, you know, it's just like a child in a new bike. You know, you might have a concept from looking at videos on how to ride a bike, right? But you never know exactly how that bike rides until you jump on it and you start to spin the wheels, right?
And
So
fall on a couple
that was
times
some
to
of the
get back up.
benefits that I had, as an appointed member to the House of Assembly. I know how the system works, I understand it, and I always tell people the reason why at this given time that I am seeking to be elected, because the work is not done for the people of the Turks and Caicos.
No.
I have a vision and I have a goal to move not only the young people, but the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands forward,
Okay.
right? And that's why I'm seeking election. Whenever you want to lead government's business and put your personal agenda or combined agenda out there, you seek the mandate of the people.
Yes.
And that's why Maxovonno is running for election.
Okay.
That's well said. You can ring that bell.
Not yet. I have questions for both of you, but a question that I want to ask both of you that I will forward to both of you, and either of you can decide who would speak first on this. Is your party a party for the youth? I had the pleasure of asking
Let me go.
because both of you mentioned youth, so I think it's best to bring this forward now.
Well, I'll actually, go first on this. Number one, Cleta, my very being here is really a testament
Clear indication.
that the PDM supports the youth. I've been appointed for the last 4 years.
Yes.
Right? If you take a look at it, this is not
Bring
something.
that one in.
This is not something that we talk about
Yes.
or we promote. When the Honorable Premier Charlene Cartwright Robinson was given a chance to give someone an opportunity, she gave it to the youth of the Turks and
Young
Caicos
fellas.
Islands. There's no way of arguing around that point, right? I don't want to do a comparison between us and our counterparts, but I think you're barely enough versed.
And
You
how
know,
old
to
were
do
you,
your
Max?
own.
How old were you?
At that stage, I was 28
question.
years old.
Oh.
Young.
When the
Prime.
PDM
Yes.
took me from being an established banker in this country and
Yes.
appointed me and gave me the opportunity
Yes.
to be able to push forward an agenda, not only to show that the youths need to be a part, and not only that they're the co-leaders of tomorrow, that they put you in a position that you're able to help to lead.
Okay.
That's
So
a
let
key
me
position.
hear your thoughts on this.
Honestly,
Mr.
Max did a good job, but as he said, he was the appointed member back in 2016, whereas I was the nominated member in 2016 for the general elections
Okay.
at large.
Yes.
So it shows within that year.
So this is like your second go round.
Yeah, this is my second go round. It shows that PDM actually has the youth to the forefront and actually want to expose them to politics.
Right.
So where I brought up about I would have preferred to run in a constituency, my heads, my leaders suggested that there's the 2 open at large slots at the time. I think it was 3 probably. And what better platform to represent the young people of Turks and Caicos rather than a constituency to take it to the national level. And they basically prepared me, instilled that it's going to change the whole game when it comes to politics.
Yes.
You're going to see a bunch of young people running up in the next election wanted to be candidates. And look at what you see today. We have a number of young persons that has either signed up but didn't get in this time, and some that got in, like both me and Max that's sitting here in the front of you. So the PDM party has always been supportive of the young people of Turks and Caicos.
Okay.
And just to cap that off, the PDM party and the ideals of the PDM party, which was Jakes McCartney was the founder. We were birthed out of youth.
Yes.
Jakes was a man that was under 30 years old, and led the Black Power movement, and then led the PDM to the first elected government in this country. So this is nothing new, right? This is in the PDM's DNA to promote young people,
And if I
because
can-
that's where we were birthed.
And I can
Right.
go on, and I can go on a little further. It's not just me and Honorable Thomas
Yes.
running. We have the Honorable Tamar Butterfield that's in Grand Turk North that's running, which is a young guy. Here
Awesome.
to
Yes,
he
represent
had
Turks and
the
Caicos.
pleasure of joining
and
me on
then
my
we
show,
also
yeah.
have
Audie.
Audie Skippins
Yeah.
that's going to be running in the bite to represent the youth, but not just the youth. I want the general public to understand that when we speak about representation for the youth, it's not mainly just the youth, because you guys are our parents, you guys are our great parents. So once the youth of Turks and Caicos are doing well in the business world, private world, civil service, wherever they decide to go, take their future, it benefits you,
Right.
Yeah,
the
entire
parents
Turks and
of
Caicos.
Turks and Caicos.
Yeah.
So we will flourish. And like I said, we can go on
Right.
all day about
Yeah.
PDM with the young people of Turks and Caicos. It's clear on the agenda.
Yeah.
So I want to shift gears a little bit. So, Mr. Bean, I have a question for you.
Yep.
You are a known young local entrepreneurship
Yes.
peer in our community. So, in your experience, what incentives do you think the government can put in place to encourage young people such as yourselves and millennials to start but have a sustainable business?
See,
Because you've been
yeah.
an entrepreneur for how many years now?
I started a long time ago.
Right,
Yeah,
and you know,
75.
you're able to sustain your businesses, so
Yes.
give us some insight about that. What do you think the government can do to improve and help young entrepreneurs such as yourself?
Everything for me starts with communication. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the mentorship program works.
Mentorship program?
Works where you take younger
Oh,
person.
you just mean generally? I
Yeah,
thought you
general,
meant
yes.
Specific.
Yeah, it works. Because I had guidance coming up. I'm where I'm at right now because I had the benefit to, I'm going to use some simple words, chill, hang around people that are already in business, well established. So sometimes you would see us hanging, but I'm learning at the same time. I'm gathering information. So what my government and what I definitely plan, that word that everybody use, empowerment, that's a big word. And when you use that, you have to understand before anybody in general, government want to speak about empowerment, the government has to start empowering its own people. Me, I'm not an appointed member or elected member. So what I did, since I'm already involved with the business community and has been doing so well, I have been encouraging a number of young guys who has business potential and want to grow by, again, sitting and talking. You can do it this way, because sometimes it's simple stuff that can cause your business to fail. Back in law school, what they told us when we entered that University of Leeds at that time, I know everybody came with a bachelor's, whatever you learned in that last bachelor's degree, just forget it. You're somewhere new, take this information right now. So, and I think what they meant when they said that was, what they were trying to tell us that, all right, we're going to show you exactly how you're going to accomplish this goal. It wasn't working it probably wouldn't have been working that way, but we're going to show you a way that works. And that's what that's why I was able to benefit from so much of other business persons here in the community. So simple stuff where I do any venture, what I did to encourage young people, such as a bunch of group of young guys, I encourage them, all right, go and get some jet skis. Go and get beach chairs, lawn chairs, learn a trade in cleaning a pool or something. If you go to my property, it's all local that deals with all that aspect of my property. So it's to give those younger guys a sense of opportunities that, hey, listen, you haven't been forgotten. If I'm going to have an opportunity at life, I'm going to guarantee you're going to have a shot out of my opportunity. And that's exactly what I've been doing over the years.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I did get a chance to read your bio, and you did mention that you've done a number of things within the community. Can you mention some of that for persons who didn't know, such as myself? Yeah,
well, like I said, I started pretty early. I think I started as early as giving back to the community in 2015. One of the biggest things, not biggest, but which I think is good for the
if that's what you think,
for the youth.
Yes,
it's the
claim it.
It was a youth empowerment event back in 2016 where I happened to be friends with an NFL player, two NFL players, and I asked them to come. There was an event that was going on, and I asked them if they can come and speak to the youth of Turks and Caicos. They went through all of the government schools, some private schools, and they fell in love. Everybody falls in love with Turks when they come.
Of course.
They fell in love, and they was like, hey, it's Lawrence International, actually. They was like, hey, Bobby, you mind if we come every year and we just do a celebrity basketball camp? We'll bring football players, teams from the NBA, and you don't have to worry about funding. We are a foundation, we'll get funding. And ever since that one event, they have been coming here every summer, besides last year, of course, because of the pandemic. The last time they came, they brought players from the Golden State Warriors. It's actually hosted at the IJ Sports Center every year. So a lot of people didn't know I was actually a part of that.
Okay.
But like I said, I'm not a social media person that much, so I really don't
Nothing wrong with
expose that. But some other initiatives that I've done, my company, I'll say Beans Global, has sponsored and funded a number of charitable events. I also took it upon myself after both hurricanes to actually feed 2 communities for 3 weeks straight. I was in the face of it because I believe if you're going to give, you give from the heart. And that's what I've been doing.
Yep.
I've assisted a number of families in rebuilding efforts. You would have seen I was on the Empowerment Show the other day, and actually Bishop Harvey actually stopped to say he wanted to thank me for all the contributions that I've done for his church as well, because his church during the hurricane. So it has nothing to do with gaining political mileage. This is something I've done, and will show for it. At the end of the day, know the goodness of me, myself. People make step up into my defense, because me personally, I'm time to actually try to kind of attention. No, my focus is the people in Caicos, and I would do to continue to.
Okay.
But which is cash with TCI. We have been doing that annual back.
Called cash what?
Cash. Yes.
Okay. Oh.
2013 after October. At the weather. And that's what we've been doing. Tablets and laptops at homes during lockdown when school. That's what I of Turkey. Don't assume. Have a when you will be black. Individual will be the same individual that is well taken. The neighbor's home right next. That too.
Considering your background in finance, what does the financial picture, in your opinion, look like for TCI, considering we are experiencing the pandemic and your role in
I can tell you is right now, I can tell you for the last pandemic, but even hurricane around. What I can tell you is that for the next, the head tax, that we can collect, we have right now is that the hotels nature in terms of moving right now, and then you have Canada, who is just shut down their borders to the Caribbean, and then you have the U.S. implementing restrictions. It makes it difficult for the government to manage. Now able to implements, right, that you can give the Honorable Charlene Cartwright manage a result people in this time that we could have done more. We had all so different from some of the Jamaica and some of those other countries that IMF is now they have ability to possibly help them. Is that moving forward is what we need. Debt restructuring and borrowing. That is the things that matter. Will help us to move of where we need to go.
Do you have some
I was at, banking for like 9. So there's a lot of major projects that myself and receive kind of my duty. It's my duty to bring those businesses back flowing themselves. So that is what I do. Of even, projects that I could name like White Sands and Grand Turk, a lot of the beach vendors in Grand Turk guys. That time when I was where I had to manage, had a well good working relationship coexist and through that period of time. And I ought to tell, at this given country to move forward and vote.
on the previous?
And you have to be. It plays responsible for.
Yes.
Right? Because if you vote and exercise your right, then put yourself in a position, if you, which they should acknowledge you, but at election period, who are able to exercise their right, right? So I think that, and this needs to go letter on there, and you can't just in politics. I should go and vote. The reason why, because you haven't that you want.
And we I've said this as well on the show. We need to remember that we place the government, and we people in these parties to represent us. And that's what you're trying to say. At the end of the day, you can't complain. Polls. Issue.
Yeah.
No reason to complain.
With you, Cleta, and I, politics, even in terms of, it was a in terms of people, state, financial situation, correlation, politics and math. So you can't country, right? And in this hospitality was getting 60% service charge. Now they're getting 100%.
Oh, really?
So that shows you that politics and positioning of governments, you look at even of unfair advantage. Government bought, if the government bought back telco loans, the government turn around and write on those loans. Right? And that's Robbie Bean Jr. We want to promote good governance, but we want to put the youth to realize, right? And if you go out and you actually to vote, then you, right? You can hold us accountable for the decisions we make.
It's funny that you question in this election, what portfolio to be assigned, if any? And
well, at the end of the day, I'm more, a finance guy than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, whatever my government, I am willing these islands, right? I come from a very able to cope. I had a preference. It would be, I think, the big migration, and I desire, right, to at the end of the day, Maxovonno, I want to be a legacy. I want a legacy behind. I want to be potential person, immigration, or who took education to go in this. My motivation is to the Turks and Caicos people for the future going forward. I always tell people they're gonna come at max person will lead this country, fulfill my purpose. Yeah. Sure, and this is what I want, that I will have some my coattail to the things that I achieve, and to also be a mentor to them beyond. And that represents
teach one. Washington.
And the other thing is
but that goes
like, and I see Junior here tonight, and we're both able to work together without any issues. More than the need to promote together, and we can achieve. It doesn't take one or two.
I want to hear this.
Political setting. You have persons express interest and say, you know, I'm going to vote for Max and not vote for Robbie. Mm-hmm. The same sentence, you have persons who say vote for Robbie and not clearly vote for Robbie.
Hey, we ain't arguing.
So it's a principles I can even tell you, core principles within the PDM.
Have opportunities where I can actually fight. They prefer to be in those. The last election, I had the same question, and during that time, I would prefer education. I'm competing with youth,
right?
And right, because it's under health now, right?
Yeah.
It's under health now?
Yeah. So I would like that. That to see baseball players like
we
I agreed, and that's why I brought
agree with that.
The NFL. We have a lot of talent here that can really not the ones for law degrees, not the ones for doctor, you know, and so forth. And I believe from time actually take those young school.
Yeah.
Improve that talent to do. So in the still education area that I would have to go at tourism, because I have an awesome job actually try a whole new source of income from a different. But for me, where young people fit from, I just point this in. I'm for the youth. If I'm taking on a portfolio that.
Okay.
So that's where I stand with that. And at the end of the day,
for that, I wanted questions. We have 7 minutes. So the first is, what community both gentlemen done over the years that speaks to your commitment to the Turks and Caicos Islands?
I touched on that.
Yeah, well, you
Yeah.
touched on
Yeah.
it. I can tell you, I was always involved, even after, the hurricanes happened recently. I was one of the first people to the on South Caicos. But I helping the youth along in terms of mentorship, even assisting them if they really need for essential items and stuff. Active, Robert, things that I have accomplished right here. I do that from the good, right? I don't tell you 500 people I help. Tell you the truth. Some people just desire my expertise and to that they need my help and saying, listen, that I of going out there and proactively and saying who you help, that's the life will always be you, right? And that's what I have done.
Okay. First on your grant is, are any of the gentlemen involved in junior achievement?
I'm actually a part of the youth room and bring along. So that goes along the very same lines.
Finish.
So I'm involved with that way, shape, or form that helps. So
The next
through
the junior achievement.
how much was given through directly is over the 4-year period. In regards to the 2 hurricanes and the pandemic, I don't say that's not substantial. Countries where we have been, right? It's a commitment to education. Have a maybe the board the regard.
Okay, awesome.
Like I said, I think I had touched on it a bit, but I haven't. That I've been doing my one-on-one people here in Turkey. So that actually come to the forefront and speak about that. I have been able to actually position a number of young people in career jobs just by being connected with certain persons and certain organizations. We are sitting actually in Digicel right now. A lot of jobs has been redundant. I was able